Bore da. Good morning, everybody. Very happy to be here this morning and to see you all here. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers for you for this panel. So we are all digital decision makers. And as we know, the word digital, what does that mean? It's the million-dollar question or 50p question, depending on who you ask. We are moving into a digital world. We are already in a digital world, you know. As broadcasters, as producers, there is more pressure than ever for us to deliver on digital content. And it's such a broad range of everything, really, isn't it? So we're going to have a very insightful, hopefully, discussion this morning. To introduce myself, I am Guto Rhun. I am Head of Young Audiences at S4C, and I'm responsible for Hanzla, S4C's flagship youth brand for 16 to 24-year-olds, which has always been a digital-first brand and a digital-first platform. We started with short-form content, and now we've branched into multi-genre, long-form content as well. We were the first broadcaster in the UK to do a vertical drama this year with Yr Alwad, which was very exciting for us, and we have much more planned coming, and we're going to see a little tease later on of our new reality format, Bar Hansh. But enough of me, let's move on to introduce everyone on our wonderful panel. So I'll hand over to you, Amie.
Thank you. Yep. So I am Amie Parker-Williams, and I am Director of Digital Commissioning and Production for MTV and Comedy Central over at Paramount. And I guess it's my job to curate and create compelling original content across all of our social feeds.
I'm MacDonald. I'm in the digital commissioning team at Channel 4. We're a cross-genre team commissioning for YouTube and other social platforms. And I'm going to get into all of that a bit later as well.
My name's Sam Pearson. I am Head of Short-Form Commissioning at Hearst Networks. That's Sky History, Crime Investigation, and a few others, for those that are unaware. I commission for a range of platforms, all your social media, big hitters, plus VOD and linear and a lot of other platforms, but for a digital-first audience.
Hi, I'm Maeve McLoughlin. I am Digital Commissioner of Factual at the BBC. I cover a range of the slate, which includes documentary, specialist factual, which would also include Natural History Unit, factual entertainment, and I also work across the BBC 3 slate.
Thank you so much. Right, hoping to get into some questions at the end, so we'll dive straight into it with you, Amie. Yes. At Paramount, what does digital commissioning look like?
Yes, so digital first commissioning is about two things, I think. It's understanding audience behaviour and then actually listening to it. Views are a useful metric, but they only tell you so much. The real story comes from the layers underneath, the watch time, the likes, the shares, the saves, and crucially the comments. And when you put that all together, that's when you see the real relationship viewers have with your content, and why I like to compare my commissioning strategy to dating. So a like or review on our content, that's like the early stages of dating. That's the first impressions, flirting attention, fleeting attention, but that's it, it's fleeting. There's no real surface level investment, and there's no deep connection at that point. But when a viewer saves or bookmarks our content, that's the first sign of commitment. That's like going on a first date and deciding you want to see that person again. Here, our content has sparked enough of a connection, enough to return to later. And then you've got sharing, which is huge in real life. That's introducing someone to family and friends, and that's the first that's the first step to building trust. And in digital terms, that's sharing content on stories, in WhatsApp groups, in private messages, and saying, I love this content, here's why you should love it too. And that's also the audience seeking validation from their circle that what they're sharing, what they're introducing is worthy. And then you've got commenting, which is the hard launch, the public declaration, and nothing says you're official like PDA online. And again, here it's the audiences remixing, debating, fangirling in the comment section and not caring who sees. And that's when you've entered a two-way relationship with your viewer. But it does work both ways. Sometimes it's a loving relationship, sometimes it's a love-hate one. But either way, it matters, because even if it is a negative reaction, viewers still cared enough to respond. The real heartbreak is silence. Silence, you know, a like or review is easy, but a comment takes effort, and I think a silent section speaks far louder than a video that's racked up a number of views. And I think, you know, the silence, the comments, the memes, their signals, and it's my job as a commissioner to listen to those signals and, you know, create stories that live long after TX. And we did a podcast recently on body image, and that did incredibly well, but that was from listening to discussions in the comment section, and I think it's a powerful example of how audience conversations can turn into commissions, and I'm pretty sure my next commission is sitting in a comment section somewhere.
But do you know what, that's so true. We had our youth news service use some generative AI, like a meme trend, and the reaction to that was quite negative reaction, and that coloured a lot of what we did, and we actually then commissioned a short documentary on AI to so, but that's the thing, you know, it's listening to the audience. So at Paramount, IP is very important to you. You sit on a lot of IP. What role does that play for you?
A huge role, and I think the real value, though, is when audience and IP work well together. I think, you know, at Paramount, you know, we're sitting on one of the richest IP libraries in the world, and I think it's about, you know, how can you fuel existing fandom while also speaking to new ones too? And I think that's the tightrope for any IP owner. You know, loyal fans, you have to reward them, but if you only speak to them, you're closing off the IP. And I think what we're trying to do is balance that by finding themes that travel beyond fandom. And Geordie Shore, which is MTV reality show, it's one of the biggest in the UK for the last 15 years. We took one of the OG stars from there and we did a digital series on fertility, and that did incredibly well for us because not only did it fuel existing fandoms, those truly obsessed with the Geordie Shore universe, it brought in an entirely new audience, one that might not necessarily be interested in Geordie Shore or reality TV, but were deeply invested because of the subject matter, which was fertility. And I think we've got a clip as well to show.
Great, let's see it. Great. Thank you, Amie. Well, yeah, clap. Big Geordie Shore fan myself.
Okay.
And hopefully the clip I'm going to show from Hanzla at the end, a bit of Geordie Shore vibes there, I have to be honest. Hanzla, we'll move on to Channel 4. So digital commissioning, what does it look like at Channel 4? What genres do you cover?
Yeah, I don't know if I have to keep the dating analogy going.
Well, you can.
Well, we're looking for lifetime commitment with our viewers. So
That was good.
one after dating. So our overall strategy is that we want to meaningfully engage with young audiences who go online to find their content, who watch TV, you know, in different ways. The way we do that is we commission for YouTube and make our content as platform native as possible, which is different from commissioning for TV and then putting it on YouTube. So we draw that distinction. And that means commissioning content which is, you know, underpinned by what we call TV techers, so the, you know, production expertise and the development acumen of the TV industry, but done with YouTube storytelling and packaging and stuff like that, and with other stuff as well. So community building is a big thing that we do online. We use data and analytics. We try and understand our audience's behaviour and track back our commissioning strategy from that audience behaviour. And of course, sort of editorial excellence is our North Star as well. And then to go into genres, which is what you asked about, we work with indies across 4 different genres. So we do entertainment, comedy entertainment, documentaries, and then we also do brand-funded or ad-funded content, which is broadly our lifestyle slate. And I can kind of go into each of them. So our entertainment content is commissioned for a YouTube channel called Channel 4.0. It's just celebrated its 3rd year anniversary, to keep that analogy going. Audience and community building is massive for that channel. But yeah, it's our entertainment channel. It's centered on creators. So every show that sits on that channel has British creators at its heart. Generally, those entertainment shows are filmed in studios. They generally have loud opinions and kind of visual spectacle at their heart. But they always have a simplicity of understanding. We always assume that our audiences aren't here for the format. They're cold audiences. And they also are designed really around virality around moments which can go viral when clipped out, which is a big part of our strategy. And to bring that to life, I've also got a clip from one of our 4.0 shows. It's called The Intern. In each episode, we have a creator who is looking for a new intern to join their team, and they're going to put those potential candidates through a job interview unlike any other.
Great, let's see it.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, you okay, mate, yeah?
Miking up. What are you saying? Come on, let's go.
He did it! He did it! He did it! He did it! Oh my life, he did it!
Today, 20 contestants are fighting for the chance to become the intern.
But this is not your typical job interview because I'm going to be finding out who's got what it takes and who doesn't. Yeah.
And let's be honest, guys, the content game ain't for everyone. That's why I've got my lovely HR team here to ensure that everyone's got a fair shot at glory.
Don't be sexist, because there's one guy already.
Oh, she played the card. Go on, Nils. 1, 2,
He's
3,
vibrating, he's shaking.
4, 5.
So, listen.
So skip the question and we just go on a date after.
We ain't here.
Oh!
We ain't here.
I've seen some glazing. Are you swimming or not? I feel like you're going to bang me in the face or something. What's the opposite of in?
In, out.
Yeah, go on. You're fired. What are you doing? I told you!
You're fired. Exits are here, here, and here, my love.
You, of course, have won the internship.
But there is one more twist. You wait right there.
That's great. Good. Clap that. Do you know what I want to ask you as well? I think what 4.0 do so brilliantly is the very clear brief you put out to the indies and for the people producing with you. And can you just tell us a little bit about how that process came to be and why is that important?
Yeah, well, that stems back from what we know works from our testing online. Niches work online, a channel with a very tight tone of voice, with a family of creators, with the same standards and expectations. That's what works, that's what people come to, and that backtracks for indies really nicely because, of course, as people pitching into that process, you get a very clear sense, and even from that clip, of what we're looking for, and the more time you spend on the channel, the more crystallised that will get. But very tight tone of voice that we're looking for. And that's the way we go. And I can maybe talk a little bit more about the fact that for 2026, we are looking for, in particular, we're an evergreen channel. We're always looking for ideas. We've just closed on a call out for ideas specifically from indies in Wales, and that process is ongoing, and we hope that's just the start of the relationship. But in addition to that, we are going to be running something called Savage Sundays next year, which is basically every Sunday we will drop a piece of content which is on 4.0, which is studio shot, a bit like that, and has social experiment at its heart. So that's specifically what we're looking for as well. Do you want me to go on to documentaries and lifestyle, which is also...
Yes. Well, why not? If we can keep
I'll keep
it slightly brief.
Because every channel was super niche and tight. So tonal change a lot. But we also commission documentaries, and that's on our YouTube channel called Channel 4 Documentaries. And we run a strand called In Too Deep. And the idea of that strand is that these are authored investigations and authored documentaries about kind of lifestyles that are like on the edge of like British society, mainstream society, but we want to explore further. And they have at their heart, a bit like all our content, that YouTube-ness, which is, in this case, like an element of stunt or prank or social experiment. So one of my favourite examples is we made a documentary called I Printed a 3D Gun, which is kind of raising awareness around how gangs can now print 3D guns, and we also printed one and fired it. And off the back of that, legislators saw the documentary, and new laws are now being processed to ban the circulation, I think, of the blueprints for these things. So really stunty, really fun, really pranky, but also a serious investigation as well.
Great.
And then we also do our lifestyle content, which is ad-funded or brand-funded, which allows us to go into areas that those super specific and tight briefs for documentaries and entertainment couldn't always go. But yeah, we partner with third parties and we are a bit broader here. So we are a corollary for Channel 4 Heartland, so broader audiences, classic Channel 4 themes, but packaged up on YouTube and also with space for brand integration as well.
Great. Thank you, Hanzla. Very interesting. And you talked there about the different genres. Any opportunities for, other than the Creator Clash that just closed for 4.0 at the moment?
Yeah, exactly. I'd say the big ones are 4.0 is evergreen, but specifically Savage Sundays would be one to start pitching in now for next year.
That's great.
And for our brand-funded content, we're looking for relationships with producers because those third-party funded briefs crop up all the time. So that's a really regular churn as well. And what we do for documentaries, we've commissioned up for this year, but we'll be looking for next year as well soon.
Thank you. And I think it'd be really interesting, maybe we can pick up at the end what you said there about digital producing and, how do we marry those traditional kind of linear production values and production techniques with new styles of production. So maybe we can pick up with that after. But Sam, if I can move on to you and talk more about short form, but digital first commissioning, and what are your success stories with short form and key lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of successes, we've been quite we've been blessed a little bit over the last kind of few years with the amount of breadth that we've been able to commission in. So part of our kind of mindset is to have no fear of failure in terms of our commissioning process, which I'll come to in a second, some of the stuff that we're looking for. But within there, we have had some kind of key successes. I'm thinking True Crime Rewind, which was an internal production for us, which performed up against long-form shows on our VOD platforms, which was really proud to see. That's a short-form show. We had Unbreakable, which was produced by the guys at Red Source, and History Crush, which I'll come to in a second. Both delivering millions of views on Instagram and TikTok. And I mean, amongst all of that, we've had prizes at the True Crime Awards and Telecast. And for us, that kind of like is a real kind of solidification about what we're trying to achieve, and those kind of like those nice kind of moments for us that kind of essentially kind of feed the ego and deliver us the kind of like the nice pat on the back for us in terms of the project that we're delivering on. But for us, when it comes to kind of the no fear of failure, we are a little bit different in terms of our mindset, in terms of the way that we approach short form commissioning, because it is very much insight driven for us. And so we're platform agnostic in the content that we produce. We've done 20 plus shows, coming up to maybe about 30 over the last kind of few years. And that platform agnostic approach means that we're commissioning for, I've already mentioned, our VOD platforms, Broadcaster VOD and SVOD, linear, but also obviously our social media channels, so YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, blah, 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 podcasts as well. And so for us, it's very much about kind of producing something with a mind in terms of a specific audience, a specific platform audience, but how can we make sure we learn as much as possible from the content that we're producing as possible? That might be thinking about how it works in vertical for a lean-in audience, but also for a TV audience, lean-back experience on a TV in their living room. They're kind of like a slightly antithesis of each other, but for us, it's about how can we marry those two together and see what we can learn. And off the back of that, it's about finding out about the talent that we can approach through this process. So new and emerging talent for history and true crime, talent that we wouldn't necessarily normally see on our linear shows, our long-form shows, and about developing them and pushing them upwards through our commissioning process. Likewise, new genres, themes, tone that we can experiment with in the short-form space and in the digital space. And likewise, what we can learn from edit structures, merchandising. I've already mentioned tone, but everything else underneath the lid that we can go into much greater detail on a digital side of things, as opposed to the more traditional linear experience, where there is good deal of data, but not in as rich vein of form as we've got on the digital side of things. And so from our perspective, it is a little bit more kind of scattergun. Following the dating analogy, it is maybe a little bit more polyamorous, And so for us, there's still maybe a kind of a fairy tale, love at the end that we're hoping for. Maybe a bit Geordie Shore. Never seen it, but I assume that's what Geordie Shore's like. So for us, we're kind of like, we are spreading ourselves a little bit thin, but we're looking for those big hits. And it's all very much about what we can learn from the content. And excuse me. And in terms of upcoming shows, we've got My Child Killed with Fork Studios. And starring, hosted by Yinka Bikini. For us, that's kind of like off the back of, but serendipitously joins a lot of the conversation that came from adolescents about families who are the parents of children who have committed murder or manslaughter, and the journey they go on after the crime, and looking at them as a victim in the case as well. So it's we have to obviously very sensitively dealt, and it is to be blunt, a compliance minefield. But for us, it's a new way of telling kind of true crime stories, and there is a really kind of important, meaningful story to be told there, sensitively done, with obviously a mind on the the true victims in the case, and everything else that goes on in these stories. Alongside that, we have a Dutch commission that we've just got off the ground and is filming at the moment with the team at Particle 6, and that's Dutch language. And for us, that's kind of a next step for us in using generative AI and to create historical scenes on the streets of Amsterdam and Utrecht, and obviously with historical reference points, so using archive and imagery and first-person accounts to utilise that as a kind of like a way of reconstructing kind of what people would have experienced from a historical perspective. And so for us, there's loads of different opportunities that we can kind of go down to kind of further our digital initiative and learn from, that can then obviously be laddered up into our long-form commissions. I mentioned History Crush, which, and word of warning for prepping the clip that's upcoming. That was with a TikTok creator called Katie Kennedy, also known as the History Gossip. And so we've been talking to Katie for a long time. This is produced by Dominic Turville and team. We've been talking to Katie for a long time, and she epitomised for us that talent development. She's a historian, but she's got a really off-the-wall style, which you'll see in a second. Very, very different for us, something that we wouldn't necessarily kind of normally translate through to our long-form shows on the channel brand, but it gives us an opportunity to experiment in this area from a genre, tonal, theme perspective, but also with these talent as well. Whether they actually end up on TV, who knows? It may not even matter, but obviously what we're doing is we're looking at how we create programs that people can sample in digital spaces and kind of learn on where those opportunities are. And she does really kind of epitomise for us about that kind of development and that new wave of history and true crime talent and authorities and contributors that we can kind of work with within this space. Roll the clip.
Did Elizabeth I have a child? Did Napoleon like his bunda unwashed? Did Lord Byron have a kid with his sister? Did Charles II invent dogging? I feel like that's definitely a plus.
You date Napoleon, you're guaranteeing drama.
I think Dickens would be quite hard to keep up with.
Charles II was a bit of a smash.
I mean, Henry VIII is an absolute sweetheart.
Riddled with STDs. Sexy.
It would be quite hard to ride a horse if you're suffering from bum grapes.
He's got a good arse.
I think she would be in a big beauty influencer.
Hiya Cleopatra, do you want to go for some cocktails? She's like, no, I'm actually shagging my brother. Is that a red flag?
I really hope not.
Well, it's interesting there, how do you bring history to a young audience, and that thing about nurturing talent and like spotting talent and having that short form content as kind of a training ground. But as you said, what I think is really refreshing when you said if they don't go on linear, that doesn't matter, but that option is there.
For sure. But she, Katie is a good example of someone that we're looking at and we think we are considering like where is her position on our linear channels. But yeah, she doesn't have to have that place. Yeah. And she may not even want that, to be honest. Yeah. I don't want to speak for her. But for us, that show is called History Crush. I don't think I need to explain what the show is about because I think it pretty much says it for itself. But it really is most interesting. Katie kind of delivers her own persona. She is what you see there. But the really interesting thing is about seeing the contributors, the historians alongside her, kind of really kind of getting the bit and kind of working with her and vibing with her. Whereas their kind of normal process would be to kind of work with a TV production and to be kind of like not the tweed blazers and elbow patches kind of persona, but to be a little bit more kind of earnest in their approach. And they loved it. They, it was completely different for them. They can kind of talk to a younger audience, but essentially it's not just young, it's anybody really who wants to kind of, anybody that really wants to kind of sample content, the historical content in a different way. And so for us, it's that kind of mindset with this kind of stuff. And then the final piece really that kind of circles all the way back is some people may have seen the announcement for Hearst Canvas, a studio from Hearst Networks that was released yesterday. It's essentially kind of like our next step in terms of, from a business perspective, where we want to kind of go from a short form and digital first perspective. So it's really kind of like about taking all of the insights and the lessons that we've learned so far, but figuring out a way in which we can start generating revenue through it and making money on YouTube, and really being kind of like focused on channel brands and shows on, say, YouTube or podcasts or whatever else it might be, but with a YouTube focus, and not be shackled by the trappings of a TV broadcaster, like channel brands and durations and geo-blocking and all that kind of stuff, all the fun stuff that we have to contend with and that limits our potential reach. So really, it's kind of like a real big opportunity for us starting next year, that we can kind of really start to be a little more expansive and play with play in new spaces and be kind of exciting, and hopefully lots of opportunity to speak with plenty of people in the audience here about next year.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Moving on to you, Maeve. I know we're running out of time. You've got an expansive slate of genres that you look after. Let's talk about innovation and what digital content are the BBC commissioning at the moment?
Yeah, so I suppose with the dating analogy, keeping going, we got married very young. Digital in 2017, BBC Digital was ahead of its time and then got divorced. And we're now back out on the dating scene. But yeah, innovation is our buzzword in the sense. So we see digital in lots of different aspects. We're focused on our audience, mostly 16 to 24. And that is in multifaceted ways when it comes to YouTube content, gaming content. We are very focused on Roblox. We have our own Roblox world called Wonder Chase, where we step into lots of mystical, magical worlds from Eurovision to Wimbledon. We're very passionate about supporting our creator economy through Creator Lab, which is our partnership with TikTok. We very successfully just had Creator Lab 2, which we partnered with a Welsh indie called Boom, which I know you heard about yesterday, and had a very successful BBC Sports partnership and created a series called Last Pundit Standing. And yeah, we're very much focused on getting back out to that YouTube world, as Kate Phillips announced it at Edinburgh. We've just actually closed a brief just a few days ago, which was a new current affairs documentary opportunity for BBC Three, working with indies on, we're going to commission 5 different documentaries. And we also really delve into that TikTok world through our vertical book talk channel, which is focused on bringing the wonderful world of books and arts to our social audience through some of our different formats, like The Rebound and What's the Book. And we've just recently had a very innovative opportunity where we brought BBC Proms to the metaverse through the Apple Pro Vision technology. So our audience was able to step into the world of the proms through that new exciting expansion. So yeah, we're constantly changing, we're constantly adapting, and we're meeting our audience where they live, and that's off platform. So in an instant, we're open to everything.
Amazing. And I think that you touched upon, I think we've all touched upon that, and I think in this digital landscape that we live in, and I think for broadcasters, agility is key, I think, and it's that ability to move where the audience are. I heard recently another broadcaster in Europe had changed. They don't use the term digital anymore. They've turned the digital team just to be an audience team, and I think that's really interesting, and what I've kind of heard from us all here today. But would you agree with that? That it's the audience is the most important thing?
Digital is a popular buzzword at the minute, but it's not new, and I think everybody in this room is aware of that. We always start and end with one thing, and that's storytelling. And where we meet our audience and how that is shaped is basically on that appetite and as it forms. And I think you mentioned earlier on the hands, it's all about having that linear telly understanding, but it's just knowing how to make a good story and make sure it's shaped right. And the only difference now is we live in a very fast-paced world where there's very fast-growing appetites and a lot of opportunity to swipe on. So you've got to grab your audience faster and harder. But ultimately, it comes down to making sure that that audience feels listened to and that it's authentic and that we are giving them things that not just keep them going for more, but actually sometimes making them pause is the big challenge in this world. Making our audience stop and actually absorb what you're making is your biggest challenge, but digital, it's not new.
Our MD once said to me, the only thing analog in this business is my wristwatch, which I thought was quite good, because it kind of flips for me, kind of the thought that actually from a broadcast perspective, everything is digital. So it's kind of like to have digital teams that are essentially kind of social media or VOD or operations or IT, whatever. It's a word that can mean anything, which is good in some ways because it can mean anything in different organisations. But actually, it's got to be much more audience focused, like you said, in terms of how people sample content nowadays, which is on platforms that they prefer, so through YouTube or whatever else it might be, or even still on linear TV with some audiences. And I think it's about making sure that you're kind of thinking audience first in terms of the way that you approach. And it's much more mindset than it is kind of like the ones and zeros.
For sure. And I think, I think for a lot of broadcasters, it's that thing of incremental change, which are things that are happening anyway. And radical change, S4C have just launched the digital first strategy. But I think what we already do a lot of like YouTube first, social media first content. But is what are we putting in place for the plans for the change, for the linear switchover in a few years' time? It's those things that we have to be focusing on. Maeve, did you have a clip to show?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just thinking, about that. No, before I didn't want to leave you up there.
No, it's totally fine. I'm glad you reminded me. Yes, so this is just a compilation of some of our most recent projects that we're very proud of.
Whoa! The title of the book I've chosen to get rebound is The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. Whoa! Wait, what?
Oh. Have I just paid to be told that I've got lung issues? I'm going to have calcium issues in my legs, apparently. I'm a slag. And didn't say you're a slag. I'm psychotic.
What is the book that made you fall in love with reading?
It's the first book I ever read. It's Watership Down by Richard Adams.
Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy.
Robin of Sherwood by Michael Morpurgo.
What did we put it?
Wow! I'm going to give it my all, and I'm not going to let you guys down.
7 massive challenges to decide their fate. Go.
Did you ever win the FA Cup?
No, it was a good fight, eh?
And they have absolutely no idea what's ahead of them.
Who will be
the last pundit standing?
Great, and great to see, as you mentioned, Boom, a Welsh indie, last pundit standing.
Yeah, I think some of the guys are here. Hi, Katie. Yes, that was an amazing opportunity where we bridged the world of linear with digital, and we were taking our creator economy, and it was a partnership with BBC Sport to find the next football pundit. But they wanted somebody that had that digital expertise and that could meet that linear audience on and give them the skills and the opportunities that they wanted to hear from that audience. So it was very exciting, and we're delighted at how well it's done.
Thank you so much. Well, I could sit here and speak to you all day, but lucky for you, we won't be doing that. But I don't think we're going to have time for audience questions, because what I'd like to do is, so that we can make sure that everybody has some takeaways today, is, tips for making digital content. So let's do a quick fire question and tips. We'll keep it specific to our channels as well. So Amie, if I start with you, quick fire, no pressure, tips.
Tips, be platform fluent. Present to me early on how your idea is going to fly on YouTube, dance on TikTok and sing on Instagram.
That is so poetic. I love that I'm stealing that as well, by the way.
Do it.
I'll translate it to
Can we end there? How do we follow that?
That is...
She speaks for us all.
We'll go back to that, but Hanzla, let's come to you.
Yeah, assume the audience is cold to your format and doesn't necessarily want to watch your format.
So true.
And also build formats around virality. So is there a moment that you really feel is going to go viral when clipped out? If so, factor that into your format. Your format should be virality factories, we sometimes say.
Love that as well, virality factory. But I think it's important, isn't it? Like, and I remember what I try and say, especially to our short form social creators, is like we need to allow them space to an opportunity to become viral. And I think I'm very proud of what we do with that, especially in the Welsh language. Just wrapping up, since we are in Wales, you know, is we punch way above our weight with Hansh, with the audience share that's available to us. And, you know, when we do have those viral moments, it's incredible. Sam?
Key one for me is like the grammar of the piece needs to be for a social media first audience. Like not, I don't mean necessarily the language used in it. It's like everything from edit sequence to the way that you select the shots, the framing of it, the way that things are packaged, getting the pack shots for thumbnails, all that kind of stuff. For me, end to end, it just needs to kind of feel like you understand, which has already kind of been said, understand like how you deliver to a social media audience and what they expect. And two more alongside that. Sorry, maybe I'm nicking yours. Like talent, really, really key. Understanding their communities and making sure that you're not trying to change that for yourself, but making sure that you're really delivering to them. And second one being kind of like be really story first. So if you've got a good story, really kind of focus on how you deliver that so that you can drive comments and discussion and make sure that that's the kind of the key thing that leads and you don't try and kind of conflate it with format and everything else.
That's so interesting, Zale. We were having a discussion just before, you know, and especially when it comes to like vertical filming and stuff like that. What I tend to see a lot is, you know, time being wasted in an edit, you know, where we've got very long kind of exposition shots and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, we don't need all that. We don't need it, so just get rid and like stop wasting time doing that, wasting money and time doing that. Maeve, sorry, that was very aggressive of me. I'm so sorry, Maeve.
Two words that really stick to mind for me are authenticity and originality. A pet peeve is a lot of digital content is regurgitation of very long-standing formats or shows, so you need to come with a fresh new idea. So I want to see that. Just because it's digital doesn't mean that it can't be new and interesting and exciting.
That's very interesting. We might have a time for maybe one or two questions from the audience, if we can be very quick about it. We have one in the front right here.
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me. I was wondering how you see commissioning change in terms of, for linear, right, you do it by genre, entertainment, factual, etc. But with digital, it seems very like digital commissioner. Is that going to change? Is it going to be by genre or by audience, or how do you see that changing?
Can I jump in here? Because we do commission via genre. So on my digital team, we have somebody who's across arts, entertainment, I'm across factual, and we have another colleague across drama and comedy. So it's still very genre specific. And how the BBC works, which is a little bit different maybe than other broadcasters, we very much feed into those genres and make sure that we are tapping into what is at the core value for each of those departments. I know that there's a little bit of bleed over sometimes in things that you might see online, but ultimately it should still have a heartbeat and a soul, and what we're trying to do is meet that audience. So it should be, I think that is the case, unless anyone disagrees.
I think definitely the same for us as well, bearing in mind that we're a history and a true crime channel. It's quite hard to kind of get outside of those two kind of genre bubbles. So for us, genre is definitely kind of key. That makes sense. But I think where the flexibility kind of comes is the tone in which you kind of approach those. And that's, for me, where there's much more breadth and flexibility when you're thinking about social-first audiences, because you can be a bit more playful, you can push boundaries, you can kind of approach things in a different way, which you wouldn't normally expect to see, or would be slightly riskier maybe on a long form or a TV channel, perhaps.
Incredible, thank you. I think that's all the time we have for questions. I want to thank everyone. I do want to play a quick clip just of Hanzla's new reality format. And I was going to apologise because this is a social trailer and it's in 9:16. I was going to apologise that it's not it's not 6:90, but I'm not. So let's just play the clip.
Croeso I Zante. Fi yw Amie, a fi di hala 6 Cymru ifanc ar y fflight rata fi di ffindo a'i gollwng nhw slap bang yng nghanol strip mwyaf prysur yn Ewrop. Yr her, sefydlu ar redeg bar Cymraeg cyntaf strip. Cymru! A roi Cymru ar y map. Fi yw bos y bar, a fydda un tafu nhw mewn ben I weired, yn gweithio shift.
Play with my ball.
Repio ar y strip,
Don't forget my bum hole.
a threfnu nosweithi Cymreig arbennig.
Oes, heddwch!
Ar ôl pwb digwyddiad, bydden nhw'n pleidleisio am y person sydd ddim yn tynnu pwysau, a bydda un dewis pa un sy'n cael y sac. Gyda 5,000 o bunnoedd ar y lein, bydd na llon pwrs o graffto,
Help.
siaffto,
We eisiau bod y biggest slag o'r barhan.
a lot o gwmpo mas.
Actually fucking fuming. Side of a pub.
Oh, Rodri, give it a rest.
Croeso I Zante,
Move out my way!
a chroeso I bar Hanch.
Thank you so much. Can I say a massive thank you to, and round of applause for Amie, Hanzla, Sam and Maeve. Also a big round of applause for Joe, our producer today, and diolch yn mawr. Everyone, I think some of us are on the round tables. Are we all? Yeah, so hopefully we can speak to everyone then. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.